Hare Krishna. I welcome you all for this very special evening with Her Grace Sukhavaha Devi, a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. We are very, very fortunate today to have the association and the opportunity to hear the profound wisdom of Mataji. So I would like to take a few minutes to introduce Mataji. So Her Grace Sukhavaha Devi is Susan Bauer. She got her bachelor's degree in social welfare in 1974, March. And that's when Mataji has moved to New Vrindavan. And shortly after that, she has joined full-time in the temple and had dedicated herself to a lot of services, which included cleaning, counting, financing, fundraising, managing a whole New York center, which is now the famous Bhakti Center, which we often hear about. And while in New York, she also took many leadership and training courses, which included intensive immersions in compassionate communication. And Mataji is an amazing author. She's authored 4 books, which are really amazing. Books on revealing the heart. It's about compassionate communication. And there are other 3 books which I've recently started reading. Finding the Gap, that's like the lies, the truth about the lies we tell ourselves. It's got so much to do with ego management. I found it very, very interesting. And you can personally read the book and just go into a very deep reflection. And then another book called Filling the Gap, and another book about Do the Soon. So we will hear more about what these books are about during the course of our discussion. And Mataji is also mother of 3 lovely children and 3 grandchildren. And in my own personal experience, in my little association with Mataji, she is very warm, very motherly. My daughter loves her so much. And when she's in Hyderabad, few months, just last month, we've had a very, very nice meeting. And she's very warm, very lovely to be with. Mataji, welcome to the show. A very warm welcome on behalf of all of us. And we have devotees and girls attending this session from different parts of India. So a hearty welcome to you.
Thank you for your generosity.
So tomorrow, being March 8th, we're celebrating the Women's Day. So, so today's topic, we're going to discuss about women, mental health, and spirituality. So if we just go through the statistics, there is a marked rise in the rate of depression, especially in young adults in India. The statistics are showing that there is a rise from 37 to 51% in depression. So that's quite a huge rise. And it's projected to be the leading cause of disability by the year 2030. So, and this is pretty alarming of what this is causing us. So amidst this scenario and this kind of a backdrop, we have to turn our attention towards mental health. So the various causes being stress, social media, the societal norms, the socioeconomic factors, all these contributing to mental health debilities. One of the major reasons for depression and such associated disorders is that a lack of awareness on mental health. People generally associate mental health with some kind of a stigma. So, Mataji, in this background, could you please shed light on the importance of mental health?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, everything that you just said, and how just there's so much more stress and anxiety and energy and fast stuff. And all this anxiety, it creates such an overload that we just get overwhelmed and we just get depressed. Now, it's interesting how, and I noticed this in India, people get a cold or a flu and they'll go to the doctor or the hospital just for a cold or a flu, But if there's something bothering them mentally, no way. I'm not talking to anybody about this. It means I'm a bad person if I have any mental anxiety or anything. We are a whole sophisticated system here. We're not just a physical body. We are a psycho, physical, and socio body. We have so many aspects of us, and Krishna really created our body and our subtle body to help us, to give us information. Chinam, you're not muted.
Yes, all of you, please mute yourself. Yes.
So and Sanjana, yeah, there you go, you did it. Chinam. So we're an integrated system. We're a whole integrated system. And our emotions and our mental state are meant to give us information. Just like if we fall and we hurt our arm, you know, the pain in our arm gives us an indication, oh, I hurt myself. Oh, there's something here that needs attention. Let me pay attention to my need. So when the mind is screaming out, or we're screaming out at others because we're so stressed, then we need to excuse me, we need to pay attention and find out what's going on. This is meant to give us information. So the stigma around mental health, it's a myth. It's some kind of a myth, something like, I don't exactly know what it is in India, but something like, oh, okay, we got a couple. Radhika, can you mute yourself, please? We've got this whole stigma, like if I'm having any mental upset, like I'm crazy or something. And this is completely a misconception. We all have stress. We all have mental ups and downs. We all have that. And these are meant to support us and help us in managing. Oh my gosh, it's too much stress. We need this information to manage our homeostasis and keep a balance. But if we keep suppressing or pushing down those parts of us, we're actually perpetuating and exacerbating the situation and making it worse. Just like if you cut yourself, you know, you cut yourself kind of deeply, but you just wrap it up with some cloth. Maybe it wasn't even clean cloth. You just wrap it up and ignore it. You could very easily get infected and cause a whole lot more problems for your body. You know, sometimes I know a friend who, when he was 10 years old, he fell off his bike and gashed his knee. And he was afraid to tell his father. He was afraid his father would get mad at him. So he didn't tell his father. He just wrapped it up. And a week later, his father started smelling something that smelled like rotting flesh. And they rushed him to the hospital, and he almost got gangrene. He almost lost his leg. So this, we can do this physically, and we can do this mentally. So mental health is imperative to our functioning just as a human being, what to speak of functioning as a devotee, functioning spiritually with our full energy. So that was a long answer to a short question.
So, thank you. Thank you very much for that very poignant understanding about the importance of mental health and how often we can take it so easy. So in the recent past, there has been a lot of research into happiness. It's called the happiness studies. And many great, very famous authors like Joanne Chittister and the likes, they've written extensively about happiness. So what is this happiness? There are a lot of philosophies surrounding happiness. Some say happiness is a choice we make. Some say, especially philosophy says that we are destined to an amount of happiness. So don't strive for it. Whatever is your quota, you would get it anyway. And philosophy also says, if you really want to be happy, stop being happy in this material world. And then, but then we need to be happy to remain balanced. So what is this happiness? Should we strive to be happy, or should we remain indifferent to it, thinking it's elusive? Or yes, could you shed some light on this concept of happiness?
Wow, that's a very huge question. You could probably do a 12-week seminar on that. So well, there's a difference necessarily between happiness and deep satisfaction. So everybody in this world wants to be happy and avoid pain. So trying to get that kind of happiness generally means we're going to do a quick fix. Oh, I don't feel happy. Let me eat some sweets. Oh, I don't feel happy. Let me find some friends. And it's usually a quick kind of a fix, just trying to uplift our general mood. Now, certainly there's nothing wrong with uplifting our general mood. However, because we are more than just a body and more than just a sophisticated system here, because we are also a soul, we want to take into consideration the soul and what makes the soul happy. And also, in order to delve into the area of what really brings joy to the soul, we're going to have to deal with all the mental conceptions about happiness and all the ways we try to quickly get happiness. And we're going to have to kind of clear away the lies we tell ourselves about happiness, about how we're not happy, about what makes us happy, about how I should be happy, how I shouldn't be happy. We're going to have to clear away some misconceptions. So that's a huge topic. But I would distinguish the difference between like a temporary quick fix happiness, like, something that increases the dopamine or the adrenaline in my body, and I feel energized and I feel happy, or like a rush of happiness. I would like to distinguish between that and the deep satisfaction of the soul, which feels connected, is in touch and aligned with the values of the soul, and can express and relate to others from that place. So I would distinguish those two. So it's not that we shouldn't look for happiness, and also in order to look at the things which cover our inherent blissful nature, we are Satchidananda, looking at those things which cover our inherent bliss, our inherent satisfaction and joy, we may need to sometimes take some temporary quick fixes to help us stay in the process, because it's not just cut and dry, and we can't just immediately rip away every single means of of temporary happiness that we have immediately. So we're a work in progress. I don't know, does that make sense? That was another long answer to a.
Oh, yes, certainly. So thank you for that explanation that that we are in a work in progress. So, so while talking about happiness, and yeah, wonderfully explained that we need to try to maintain this a situation of being balanced.
Mhm.
Women, as such, are very giving in nature. So, as the very giving,
Yes.
and in the process, they often neglect something called the self-care. So, in your book, I have read this wonderful line saying that self-love is not selfishness. So, Amen, could you explain this fact?
I'll do my best in 5 minutes or less. Oftentimes we neglect our own self-care as a means to obtain some other kind of care. So I'll just give an example. We may have been brought up without a lot of self-worth. We may have been taught that getting approval and attention from the outside requires me to do something. So when I do something, then I get some appreciation, some attention, some love. And we may learn that at a very early age. And certainly girls learn that from their mothers, watching their mothers working and taking care of the family. So we learn this behavior that in order to get love, I need to do something. And sometimes that distracts us from taking care of ourselves and loving ourselves. So if we don't love ourselves and we don't have self-worth and we need to get that love from outside, we're focusing on the outside trying to get something while neglecting our inside, which when we pay attention to it and give it what it needs and value it, that will fulfill us even possibly more than the attention we get from outside. Now, as a wife and a mother, certainly we have responsibilities to take care of those in our family. And I'm not saying to neglect those in our family. However, if we're the source of the support for others, we need to get support ourselves. We have to make a sustainable system. If it's not regenerating, if we're not getting re-energized and we're just giving, our battery is going to wear out. We need to recharge. We need to find ways to recharge and sustain our energy so that we can serve in joy, not in stress or anger. So self-care and self-love is the foundation. If I don't love myself, nobody outside is going to really change that perception I have of myself. I'll get like a little inkling, oh, I'm worth something. But then the voice inside of me, oh, no, you're not, just throws that down the drain. And so we're always starving and desperate for that love and attention from outside. When we learn how to actually honor and value and respect and care for ourselves, wow, it's a self-sustaining system. And then we can hold what appreciation others give us, and we'll have more to give to others. That was about as short as I could be with that explanation.
So this is a very amazing concept. I would want to go deeper into this question. So,
Sure.
yes. So how do we practically do this in our life, that we turn inward and not out? And it's easier said, but it's like we are programmed from our childhood
Yep.
to, being conditioned to be happy with something external, could be appreciation or attention. So we're conditioned to that. So how do we detach ourselves from that conditioning and then look inward for happiness? How do we embark on such a journey?
Well, we don't detach ourselves first. First of all, we recognize what we need. We recognize that we have to recognize, first of all, that maybe we're resisting ourselves. Maybe we don't like ourselves. Maybe we, and especially when we become devotees, a lot of us, we think our mind is our enemy, and so we're like a resistant towards our own mind. And if our mind says, oh, you need to take a nap, we might, no, that's just Maya. You're just a sense gratifier. Oh, you're just not surrendered. I mean, all these judgments. So I'm just wondering, just for 10 seconds, each one of you on this call, think about, how does it feel to live with your enemy 24/7? If you think your mind is your enemy, or you think there's parts of you that are your enemy or your evil side, how does it feel to live with that thought that that you have an enemy inside of you? Just think about it. Exhausting, confusing, irritating, agitating, frustrating, scary, so many different things. And this is generally how we relate to ourselves. That doesn't help us. That makes us feel worse. And then we got to go out and get more stuff out here because we feel so bad inside. We want to really look at what parts of us inside need healed and need love and attention and care. And that would, first of all, take the awareness of, how am I judging myself? How am I diminishing myself, degrading myself? How am I, criticizing myself? Those, if we can first address that, if we can stop hurting ourselves, that would be a big step. That would be the first step. If we stop beating ourselves up, that's going to feel a lot better. Then we can start healing the parts that have been beaten up, one step at a time. Does that make sense? Was that clear?
Yes, very much. Thank you. Thank you for that. So it starts with probably not getting into a mode of self-blame and not, yes. So continuing this very theme, I would just want to ask that while practicing self-love, how do we differentiate between what we really need and what's the demand of a mind? Like, for example, sometimes a mind might demand things which are not in line with dharma. So in this scenario, how do we practice self-love?
Okay. Oftentimes, the demand of the mind is more a conditioned strategy of how to meet a need. So I'll give an example from my life. When I turned 8, I went to a school that was very challenging, and we had tons of homework. I took home like 10 books a day, and I was only 8 years old. It was very stressful. And so I became a workaholic at the age of 8. So the demands of my mind would be something like, oh, you got to get this done. You got to, the demand of my mind, and you got to do it this way. And you got to think like this, because that's how my mind coped with the stress of the 8-year-old. And it started coping and designing ways in which to, cope and function under stress. So we do that. And then we can understand that, okay, that's a coping mechanism. So that's, yeah, that's not really gonna exactly be my deepest need, but it's my strategy for coping. So we can honor a coping mechanism as a coping mechanism. We can honor, okay, I need to plan ahead. I'm a planner. I need to plan so I make sure I get it all done. We may be able to honor that. However, we may also be able to understand, okay, I need to plan and it just seems overwhelming. Maybe I'm trying to do too much. So we need to look at the strategy and what is it that I need and what am I doing? Am I saying yes to too many things? And, am I causing more stress for myself? So it really takes a self-awareness. And I like to use the word self-awareness even before the word self-love, because that's a huge step from self-neglect to self-love. But self-awareness would be the first step. Being aware, why am I so stressed? Am I saying yes to people? Why can't I say no? What do I make it mean if I say no? So kind of understanding what's my need that's being met by saying yes. Oh, people love me. People like me. I get appreciation. Okay, so you have a need for appreciation and validation. Okay, is there any way that you can validate yourself and appreciate yourself so that you don't have to just keep saying yes to everybody? You can say yes to yourself. Yes, I validate you. You're working really hard, and I validate that maybe you need 30 minutes a day walk or exercise to relieve some of your stress. I validate that you need that. So our mind sometimes just wants to go to the strategy that it did before. Oh, you just got to work harder and get it done, which creates more stress. Or and having the self-awareness that, wait a minute, am I causing more stress for myself? And then being self-aware enough to ask the question, what might help really relieve my stress? Could I go for a walk? Could I do some exercise? And that's just an example. Does that make sense?
Yes, certainly. So I really like this, that the first step is to be self-aware. And what is it, that need that I'm trying to meet or that I'm neglecting? Yes, to become aware of that and to meet that need would be more crucial. So that's a very good point. Thank you. Thank you so much, Madhiji. So like my next question is, why do we get depressed? And is there any spiritual solution to it? So by nature, we are all Satchidananda. So why do we have this tendency to get into bouts of depression? And how do we see it from a spiritual dimension? And is there any way to maintain that consistency of remaining balanced and active?
Well, depression is part of maintaining our balance. It's not a bad thing. Depression tells us that maybe we need to slow down. Maybe we're taking on too much. Depression can tell us many things. And I would say, existentially, our depression stems from a really innermost grief. As a soul, we've lost our real identity. I don't really know who I am. I mean, right now I'm Sukhavaha Dasi in a female body, but that's not who I really am. It's an identity I created over 70 years, but that's not really who I am. I don't even know who I am. There's a sadness there. There's a grief there. I lost my best friend, Krishna. I'm working to develop my connection with him, but I lost that relationship. And I lost my home in the spiritual world. Those are three major losses. There's an inner grief and an inner feeling of separation. And so sometimes external circumstances trigger that deeper sadness, that deeper grief, that pain inside of us. And it's not a bad thing that it triggers it. It means, oh, maybe I need to look deeper. Oh, what is this about? What is going on? To be curious about our depression rather than just trying to get rid of it. Our depression, our anger, our frustration, our sadness, all of these emotions are giving us information. And we'll get the answers when we're curious, not when we're judgmental. What's going on here? What am I so depressed about? What am I telling myself? Oh, you're just a failure. You can't do anything. What's wrong with you? Everybody else is doing better. You've been chanting for 27 years and you still don't have chanting for 49 years and you still don't have love of God. What's wrong with me? You know, how am I judging myself? Or am I saying, okay, well, I'm definitely a little more connected than I was previously. You know, we compare ourselves to others and we look at the external, oh, look at how much they're doing, look at how good they are, and I'm nothing. It's like constantly beating ourselves up and really, really, really making it harder for us. So the depression tells us something. If we're not curious, we may become depressed that we're depressed. And we may get angry that we're angry. So we want to be curious. Why am I depressed? Why am I angry? What's going on? What's this about? What am I telling myself? And that means being curious and then being self-aware.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Mataji. So I would want to now go towards a little serious topic. So what is that a person, male or female, what do they go through during midlife?
Yeah. Go ahead.
During the phase of midlife crisis? Why is that the ego needs, which they call in the Maslow's pyramid of needs, there's something called the esteem needs. They seem to be flaring up during that period. Is there any connection to what the body goes through during that time? And the ego needs really flaring up. Is there any connection?
Yeah.
How do we address that?
Yeah, for sure there's a connection. As we grow, starting from when we're very little, we go through certain identity crises, a number of them. So we're a little child, we stay at home, we're with our parents and our brothers and sisters, and everything's fine, and we're all secure. And then we have to go to school. Oh my gosh. Now who am I? Now what do I do? How do I understand my surroundings? How do I deal with that? So that's an identity crisis. It shakes our world a little bit. As we grow and we become more self-aware, like a preteen or a teenager, much more bodily conscious, our body's changing, everything's changing. So we're like more self-conscious, and that's another identity crisis. And then as we grow, and now we're going to, you know, go to college and university, get married, leave our family, get a career. It's another identity crisis. And then in midlife, you know, maybe our kids are grown up, they've left us, you know, maybe we still have a job or maybe we don't. So that may be another identity crisis. And then, you know, as we retire, then that's another identity crisis, because we've generally been identifying ourselves with our environment or our title. I'm a student, or this is my career, this is my job, this is who I'm a doctor, I'm a engineer, whatever. We identify with the external. And so when the external changes, we get shaken up and we may go into our existential grief. I don't even know who I am. And that's disconcerting. So rather than seeing these identity crises as a crisis, we could call them identity growth opportunities. Opportunities to understand ourselves in a much bigger perspective, that I am more than what I thought I was. I thought I was just a little kid that was going to stay at home and my mom and dad would take care of me forever. And now I'm going out in the world, I'm growing. It's a growth opportunity. So then we're growing. And then as we become a teenager, it's another growth opportunity to develop our individuality and our independence. So they're growth opportunities. And one part of us, especially when we're younger, can feel the opportunity, like we're 18. I want to be an adult. I want to get away from my parents. I want to be able to do and say what I want to do. I want to have my own life. So there's a growth desire, growth opportunity. But then there's the, oh my gosh, well, who am I without my parents? I don't even know who I am. I don't know how to do that. So that's the crisis. And that's the possibility for growth and development. And also it allows us, the growth and development allows us to let go of parts of us that aren't really just us. I'm not just a little kid. Now I'm an adult. So it expands our identity. And there are parts of our other identity that we may be able to let go of as we grow. So just like you said, how can we detach? First of all, you need to grow a little bit. And then when you grow a little bit, you have this to focus on. So then you can let go of this over here, because you've got something else now to hold on to. It's like taking steps. We don't generally jump. We take one step and then lift the other leg. So when this leg is firmly planted, then we can lift this leg, and then that can move ahead. So that's how we don't just jump. We take one step and then lift the other leg, detach it from back here, and move it forward. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, Mataji. Thank you. And
did I answer your question?
Yes. I mean, I have an extension to that.
Okay.
If I may ask. So how do we address those needs of the ego in a way that it's not probably feeding our, let's say, making us proud, or it's not about feeding our ego, but then esteem needs are met with. So how do we strike this gentle balance?
Say that last sentence again. The very last part, I didn't catch the words.
So I was asking that we do have some esteem needs. So how do we
esteem? Okay, yes.
Yes. So how do we fulfill the esteem needs without feeding the ego?
Okay. Okay, now I understand the question. Got it. Thank you. I would use a different word than esteem, because esteem means I'm putting myself up. I would like to use the word self-respect, respecting myself, that I am a part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna made me. He didn't make a mistake. He has a purpose for me. I may not know what it is, but He has a purpose for me. He has some service for me. And in the eternal spiritual world, he even has some service for me there. I'm not useless. I'm not nothing. I'm a little tiny part, but he has some service for this tiny part. So the self-respect is really respecting, that part of me. And then also respecting that I am tiny. I'm a jiva tattva. And in this world, I make mistakes. My senses aren't perfect. I can get illusion very easily. I'm a jiva tattva. I'm marginal energy. And yeah, I may cheat myself or cheat others because I want that quick fix. That cheating mentality is the quick fix. I want to get the gold without having to pay the price. So the balance is really, to me, when there's self-respect, it's not a self-esteem. It's not like I'm great, but it's not a self-debasement. I'm nothing. I am a part of Krishna. It's really a respect. And it's a respect for what Krishna did. Krishna made me. He didn't make me say, Krishna loves me. Who am I to hate that part that Krishna loves and Krishna made? So when we can learn about self-respect through self-awareness, what do I do that's respectful? What do I do that's disrespecting me? Then we can really get to a really firm ground to stand on. I may not know who I am. I do have a respect that I am a part of Krishna, and I'm on my way to discovering who I am. And just that in and of itself gives me some ground to stand on that isn't necessarily related to the false ego. I am a jiva, and I'm on my way to discovering who I am. And a lot of times I have to discover who I'm not first before I can discover who I am. So it's like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, a lot of sense. I really love that Krishna made me, he didn't make a mistake. It's very profound. I mean, it appears very deceptively simple, but it's a very, very sweetly framed sentence.
Yeah. Can we honor that? And can we honor that gift that Krishna made and he gave to me? He gave me dominion over this little soul here. I am this soul, but he gave me independence. He gave me life. And how can I value that? So self-respect and self-value, value the gift that Krishna gave me and utilize it.
And I also love that we need to also discover who we are not, apart from discovering who we are. And that's quite a journey. And could you please shed light, how do we discriminate?
I like the word discern, because discriminate to me, and it's no judgment on your part, but I've been hearing the word discriminate, and you discriminate usually means you're good and you're bad or something.
Yeah, discern.
And the discrimination is also that. Discernment means just understanding what is helpful now and what isn't helpful now. Maybe what am I still doing that was helpful in the past, but it's not helpful now. So the discernment is to really see, okay, to again, be curious. Why do I do this? Why do I have this habit? What's it providing for me? Because it's definitely providing something. Otherwise, we wouldn't keep doing it. What is it providing? Is there another way I could provide that that's more evolved, healthier, more connected to my soul, more self-giving, self-respecting, self-valuing, rather than just using up my energy and disregarding my own soul and my own needs. So the curiosity really helps us a lot. So discernment takes It's not like there's one answer. It's an ongoing process. How do I discern if I'm hungry? Will I become attuned to my stomach? I sometimes eat at regular intervals, and I can discern, oh, when I'm thirsty. How do I discern when I'm thirsty? I'm thirsty. We need to fine-tune that discernment to our emotional and psycho-spiritual needs, which are a little more subtle than maybe the physical need for food or water. So we need to fine-tune and be able to get connected with, why am I so stressed? What do I need? And be curious, asking those questions, because we're not generally connected on that subtle platform. And that's what trips us up in this world. That's what has us lose our balance and fall on our face. We're not attuned. We're not paying attention to the fine details. And then there's a little step and we trip over it. So becoming aware of our inner needs, our need for validation, our need for attention, a love, our need for care, whatever those needs are, our need for individuality, understanding that and finding healthy, self-sustaining ways to fulfill those needs. And keeping a balance is not a once and done thing. When you're riding a bike, you have to keep pedaling. I mean, you can balance a little bit, you can coast a little bit in balance, but if you're going up a hill and you don't pedal, you're going to be falling over. So keeping a balance is, it's an ongoing effort in the ups and downs and the hills of life. Sometimes you might coast, and keeping a balance is so easy. Ooh, but then you're going up a hill, you got to pedal. So keeping a balance may take a little more effort. That makes sense?
Yes, very much. Mataji, could you please give us an example of what is this healthy, self-sustaining ways of fulfilling those needs, so that we could appreciate and
Well, my
practice?
goodness gracious, there's probably a million of them. First of all, we have to recognize what we need in reality. In my one book on compassion, and in the second book of Entering the Gap, there's a card in there. I don't think I have it here. A yellow card with feelings and needs. Feelings on one side and needs on the other. We need to start having a feeling vocabulary and a need vocabulary, understanding, what do I need right now? What's going on here? Being able to name that need. If I'm hungry and I say, oh, I need potato chips, that's not a need, that's a strategy to fulfill my need. I'm hungry, I want something salty and crunchy. Okay, potato chips is only one salty, crunchy option. There are other salty, crunchy options. So that's not a need, that's a strategy. So being able to understand, I'm hungry, I'm a little stressed, I want something to kind of like chew on to kind of maybe work some of that stress out of my physical body. I want to crunch on something. We can think of different things that we could crunch on. That's just a simplistic, it's a simplistic example. But we have needs for independence, needs for comfort, needs for understanding, needs for being heard, needs of physical needs, rest, shelter, warmth. We have needs for belonging, for connection, so many different needs. So the first thing I would say is really getting a feelings and needs vocabulary. And I'm willing to send you out a card, soft copy, with the feelings and needs on it if you want to share it with the people here. Because just naming our feelings and naming our needs has generally our upset come down at least 50%. At least 50%. Studies have shown, because it's like, oh, okay, that's what I need. Oh, okay, now I know what to do. But we're just kind of flying blind here. We're just grasping for, we're grasping and we don't even know what we're grasping for. So again, being self-aware, curious, self-aware. And then we can think of so many options of what to do. Well, I have a need for understanding. Okay, well, how can I get that understanding? Well, I could do some study and research myself, and maybe I could understand myself. I could go to somebody who's an expert on the subject. I could talk to a friend who might just listen and be compassionately understanding. You know, there's so many options. That makes sense?
Yes.
One need, many options.
Yes. As I specifically like this, what's a need and what's a strategy? Eating something salty and crunchy is a need, and potato chips is a strategy of the mind. Oh my God, this is very subtle. And I guess
Very subtle. And the need isn't something salty and crunchy. The need is, I mean, that's a physical need, but that's also a strategy to meet the need to relieve stress. Probably the need would be to kind of release some stress or something. That would be the deeper need. And then, you know, that might be something salty or not salty. And sometimes, so they're intertwined. So yeah. Because you could maybe, I mean, for me, I like salt. So I would like my crunchies to always be salty, but some people just might like crunchy.
what apparently appears as a need to eat something, it has a much deeper meaning, or deeper root.
Generally, we're a psycho, physical, spiritual entity all combined together. So there's connections. And if we don't really understand the fine parts of it, we're going to have trouble operating it. I liken it to, you know, like if you have, just take a simple cell phone. If you don't know the program, like my granddaughter, you know, she sees her mother, so she'll go like this and hit the phone trying to make it do something, you know, and then she gets the fine tuning of how to do it. But you know, as a little child, they just kind of try to make the pictures go, but sometimes they don't exactly know what they're doing. That's kind of like us. We don't really know what we're doing, and we're just kind of imitating. But when we get when you understand the programming, when you understand the software programming, oh, I just have to push on this button. I have to double click, not just one click. I have to double click. You have to understand all those finer parts of how to operate this little machine. And this little machine is not nearly as sophisticated or complicated as this machine here. It behooves us to understand our software programming. Yeah.
That's amazing. Very delighted to learn this. Yes.
Okay.
So one last question from my side before I leave the floor open for the audience. So in our spiritual journey, we have a need to find our purpose, at the same time need to go through a purification. So
yes.
So do they happen simultaneously, or should we embark on one thing at a given point of time? Or could you please share your wisdom of your journey is like decades, and you have profound wisdom and realizations. Mataji, please share with us your realizations on your journey so far.
I think it's both simultaneously. Our purification is part of our growth and development, and our growth and development does help us find our purpose. And our purpose, maybe like when I first started 50 years ago, my purpose was one thing. And then, I did different services, and then it evolved, and I did different services. And so as we evolve, we become more clear and more clear and more aligned, and yeah, more able to choose consciously choose what our purpose is, rather than just having it thrown on us and taking it on when maybe it's not our purpose. Maybe it's somebody else's purpose, and we're just like, okay, whatever, okay, I'll do that, okay, I'll do that, I'm surrendered, I'll do that. So you know I think both happen simultaneously, because as we become mature in our consciousness. Haribol, Rajeshri, Rajeshri, we hear everything. Can you mute? Haribol, Rajeshri, thank you. It's hard to talk over something. So as we, step by step, take steps in self-awareness, that self-awareness helps us to understand, okay, why am I doing this? Is this really what I want to do? Is this fulfilling me? Is this inspiring me? Or, is this aligned with my values? So, and it could be aligned with a temporary value, but then when that value, that temporary purpose is fulfilled, then maybe I want to align in another way. So it's an ongoing developmental process, and I think, again, we're a work in progress. We're a work in progress, because there's always more to grow.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you.
Okay. Somehow your video is frozen.
Oh, my video's frozen? You're not frozen. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but your video is frozen. Yeah, Hare Krishna. So I would request all of you to be prepared with your questions. So I think I've asked lots and enough. Actually, not enough. I have more, but respecting Mataji's time. So I would request the audience to be ready with your questions. And just waiting for Mataji to join. Okay, Haribol, I already see some hands. Akanksha and Muskan. Yes, great. So we're just waiting for Mataji to join us. Please mute yourself. Haribol. Yeah. So I would just, oh my God, I see so many hands. Just give me a moment. I'll try to call Mataji. Yes, Mataji is logging in again. So I see hands up from Muskan, Akanksha. And while you're asking your question, I would request you to please turn on your video if possible. And that's when you can ask your question. Yes, if you have any question, you can certainly write it to me on the chat, which are for some reason. Yes, Mataji is back.
So who do we start with? Who was first, Sarita or Shreya?
Yes. So we have 4 devotees here, many, in fact. We'll start with Muskan. Yes, Muskan. Please unmute yourself and turn on your video and ask your question. And Muskan will be followed by Akanksha, Shreya, and OPPO. I don't know who it is. Yes.
Yes, Mataji, Hari Krishna. First of all, sorry, Mataji, I can't open my camera because front camera is not working. That's why.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Mataji, my question is like, I'm chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra since 2 years. But the thing is that I can't control my anger, right? Like, I have few anger issues. While anger, I do fight with people. Sometimes, even most of the time. So, while fighting, in my mind, it's going like Krishna don't like, even it can spoil my devotion life also, like something like after that event, um, that that event again and again it comes in my mind, and sometimes it makes disturbance in my chanting. So that is something happened for a long time.
Yeah, well, anger generally is trying to tell us something. Maybe some boundaries are being crossed, or it could be anger from childhood. I didn't know, I mean, I knew I had a difficulty relating to my mother, but I didn't realize that I was angry, like furious at my mother till I was 47 years old. So sometimes we have old anger inside of us from another situation that didn't get healed. And then Sarita, we can hear you, just to let you know. So if we can just be curious, why am I angry? Why am I angry? What's happening that I'm feeling angry? And then you just start, well, he's not listening to me, or they don't care about me. Listen to the voices in your head and get clarity about why is, where's this anger being stimulated from? What am I making it mean? And then you may get clarity about where it comes from. But that's, it takes a long process. You can also, again, therapy and counseling and coaching and, being able to express yourself to somebody else who is a non-judgmental listener, all these things can help us to work through our issues. But I mean, I've been working on myself a lot for 23 years. So it does take time. There's not an answer. What do I do with my anger? Like, be curious. Why am I angry? Where does it come from? And maybe get some counseling or something like that. And then you could, but I do acknowledge you, first of all, for admitting publicly about that. And that takes courage to do that. And I also acknowledge you for wanting to do something about it. Those are 2 really great steps. So you've got 2 things going for you right there. Acknowledging and wanting to do something about it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, can you repeat second one, please? I didn't catch you that time. Second.
Second acknowledgement. First of all, for admitting and acknowledging that you have anger issues. Second of all, for wanting to do something about it. So be curious. Maybe get some counseling. Maybe find somebody who would be a supportive listener and who could, regularly listen to you and help you to get clarity what's going on, like that.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Akansha?
Wonderful question. Yes, Akanksha, please, you can unmute yourself and possible to
Hare
unmute.
Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji,
Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much Mataji for the wonderful session. Mataji, I had this question. What does it mean to depend on Krishna, and how can we in our practical lives depend totally on Krishna? And other, I had one request from you. Please.
Well, let's just do
could
one
you-
at a time, one at a time. Okay. So the first one, how can we depend on Krishna? Well, it's a practice. It's a practice. It's not going to just happen all at once. We can start by praying to Krishna and saying, Krishna, I want to depend on you. I want to learn how to depend on you. Help me to see how I can depend on you. So that might be the first step, just to start having a conversation or a prayer with Krishna. Dependence on Krishna is a lifelong practice. So there's not just one way to do it. I'm just giving you the starting practice. Talk to Krishna, develop a relationship with Krishna, ask questions to Krishna, and he will help you to depend on him because you'll be aware of him. That would be my quick answer for the first step.
Okay, Mataji, I will try that. Thank you so much. Mataji, could you please share some interaction of yours with Srila Prabhupada? Any incident?
Well, I didn't really get to spend time with Prabhupada much at all. I mean, he said Haribol to me and two other devotees one time for a second, and I got a cookie one time for like briefly. So those were my interactions. Most of my deep connections were through Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. That's where I got more deeply connected with him. So thank you for asking. Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much, Mataji. That was so sweet. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Yes, we have OPTO. I don't know who it is.
Oppo A31.
Hare Krishna, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, I have a question. Like, how can we understand yourself? Like, whenever I try to understand myself, I stuck on a one question, like, who am, why I'm here, some stuff like that. So, can you please reply us and show some light on this question?
Well, do you believe that you're a soul and a part and parcel of Krishna? Do you? I don't know what your practices are. Do you believe that you're a soul?
Yeah, ma'am. I believe.
Okay. So you're a soul. So that's part of who you are. Now,
Yes,
what does it mean to be? What does it mean to be a soul? That's something that we discover over time, because we're used to being a body and a mind and we're used to being that. So
Yes.
again, we want to discover, how does our body and mind function and work, and what does it do? And to understand that I am different from what I do. Like, maybe I have a career as an engineer. I could say I'm an engineer, but that's not really my identity. That's what I do. My career is an engineer. So distinguishing the differences between what I do and who I am. So that means, it takes time, it takes practice. There's no one quick answer to how do I discover who I am. I'm still a work in progress, and I'm 70 years old. So you just keep being curious, and it takes patience. But see, in this day and age, oh my gosh, we want instant answers. Tell me, how do I do it right now? I want to download it. Just let me download it in my brain so I have all of your experience and all your learning in my brain. It's not going to happen. You're going to learn through your experiences, and you're going to learn little at a time. Just like a child, you can't feed a baby solid food right away. It can't digest it. So you get what you get, and then you digest that, and then you can have some more, and then you can digest that, and then you can have some more. You can't just keep eating continually. You need some breaks, some rest and digest, some reflection, some thoughts, and then you have some more experiences. So be curious. Be curious. Who am I? What is my purpose? Who am I? What is my purpose? I was asking that question from when I was 13 onwards. Who am I? What's my purpose? If I don't have some higher purpose in life, what's the point of living? Those were my questions as I was 13. I didn't even come across karma and reincarnation till I was 18. And then I got a Bhagavad Gita, and then I started investigating in that more and more and more. And that was 50 years ago. So, yeah, just keep being curious. Whatever you want, Krishna will fulfill it in his time frame. So just keep being curious. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Ma'am, I have
You're
another
welcome.
question. Like, please give us some practical ways. How can we hide our negative emotions? Like, sometimes I feel so angry, but when I just I show my anger on another one, then I feel some guilty on that. So please
Right.
tell us some ways.
Well, anger, of course, is an emotion, and it's trying to tell you something. It's usually trying to tell you that somewhere some boundaries were crossed, or you got pushed further than you could handle, either when you were young or now. So anger is giving you information. We don't want to stop our emotions. We want to be curious about them. And also, we don't want to suppress our emotions. We want to be curious about them. And throwing our emotions on other people is definitely perpetuating the cycle, because when we throw our anger on somebody else, then they throw it back on us. So if you can pause, take a breath, and be curious, what am I angry about? What's going on here? Krishna, please show me. What can I do about my anger? And you're really curious and you really want to know, he'll send you ways and means. So, I mean, I wrote a couple of books about your operating systems. They're in-depth books. So, I mean, that can give you some hints too, but it really is up to your desire. If you're curious and you really want to get to the bottom of why am I angry and what's it all about, anger a lot of times is a secondary emotion. A lot of times there's a lot of pain, grief, and hurt underneath the anger. And that pain and grief needs to be addressed. The anger is not going away because the anger is a response to the pain and the grief. But if you can get to the pain and the grief, then you might be able to see, oh, they keep touching that place of my pain and my grief, and then I get angry that they're touching that. So you want to be curious, what's my pain and my grief? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I think Shreya has a question.
Shreya,
Hare
please
Krishna,
unmute
Mataji.
yourself. Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Pranam. Mataji, my question is like today, our parents encourage us to go earn money, go out of the house and earn money. That is what women empowerment they say. But in earlier days, like if we take example of Mother Sita or Mother Parvati, okay, so how they represent, because they never went out of their house and earned money and all, but still they are worshipped and still they are given an example of women empowerment. So can you just
Yes.
explain that
Uh,
is actually real
obvious, obviously, there's more than one way for a woman to be empowered. And I think that women empowerment nowadays is more about the system of maybe patriarchy that is not necessarily empowering women as they stay at home. Like Sita and was honored by Ram, and she was empowered by Ram, and she had a lot of say in the matter of what happened. I mean, they had a real dynamic relationship. I think women empowerment nowadays is meant to really protect women, to give women some independence, to give them some that they're not just so depending on the man that if anything happens, then they're completely helpless and yeah, and incapable of functioning. So I think the women empowerment movement nowadays is because we don't have the structure, the Vedic structure where women would be taken care of. I mean, even Narada Muni's mother, the demons wanted to kill her because, you know, he was the son of a demon, Hiranyakashipu. However, she was given shelter in an ashram, and that's where Narada Muni spoke his wisdom. So I hope I didn't get the story mixed up, but something like that. There was a whole culture, a whole system of protecting women and children. That system has deteriorated, and a system of because it's Kali Yuga, but a system more of sometimes abuse or not taking care of a woman, that kind of has more prevailed. And then a woman, you know, she gets married, and then even if the husband is physically hurting her, she may feel like she has to stay in that marriage because she doesn't have a career and she can't take care of herself. So her choices are to go back to her parents or stick with the marriage that's not working. So I think women empowerment nowadays is more meant to create a system of like where a woman can be self-reliant and not helpless in the face of a system which can't necessarily give full shelter to a woman. Does that make sense?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, and I think parents are more inclined now for a woman, even for herself, to be financially stable, that you can have some stability, and then, you know, if anything happens, you have a career and you could maintain yourself if you had to. Whereas otherwise, some people, well, this is all I got. I can't take care of myself. And so they stay in a relationship that's maybe abusive. So I think that's kind of more what women empowerment has evolved into in this day and age. And the examples that you gave were part of a whole structure, and Ram was Krishna. So, I mean,
I'm sure that answer was very profound and very practical. It answers many questions. Somehow we lost Mataji once again. I will just try to call her. She might be back any moment. So who has asked this question? I hope it's answered. If you have any further. Yeah. Yes, so we have Sindhuja and Ankita asking two questions, and we have a couple of questions on the chat as well. So let's wait for Mataji to come back. So that's so very true what Mataji has been speaking. Yes, we should never get into a situation where we are helpless. Yeah, women have to be more self-reliant in this day and age where we cannot expect ideal Vedic situations in terms of the society or in terms of, we never know the family. Yeah, so this is what Mataji is speaking is based on a lot of experience, So it's a very practical answer. Is it Shreya who asked this question? Shreya from Jharkhand. Hari Bol, so happy to see you. So happy to see you.
I'm Mataji.
Yeah, so Mataji is joining again. She just messaged. Lost.
Mataji.
Yeah.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. But Mataji, uh, ho- like you said, I should draw boundaries. But how do I deal with it? I am in this position. I have.
Just understand yourself. First of all, you can understand I'm a highly sensitive person. I feel other people's emotions. I can feel them even if they don't say a word. I can feel it, right?
Yes, Mataji.
Just understand that about yourself. Okay. And then you could start to write, I'm feeling this about this person, this, like write down what you're feeling and say, okay, this does not belong to me. And you put it on a piece of paper and put it over there and just say, this does not belong to me. You know, this does not belong to me. And you can send it back with consciousness too. That's a psychic boundary you can put up. You know, whatever energy is coming towards you, if it's negative energy, this does not belong to me. I send it back with consciousness. And that'll give you some space within which to function without becoming overwhelmed. Does that make sense?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. You're welcome. Do you want to read the two questions in the chat? Because I can't quite see them on my phone.
Yes, I'm reading out the questions on the chat. Here's a question from Sridevi ji. How can we help ourselves to overcome secondary gains in the process of self-awareness or self-realization? Secondary gains like righteousness, blame, or self-avoidance, and so on.
So read the question again. How can we avoid secondary gains in the process of self-awareness?
Yes. How can we help ourselves overcome secondary gains?
Well, if you're self-aware, you would be aware that you're becoming righteous. So it wouldn't be a secondary gain. You would see it because you're self-aware. Self-awareness means you're aware of all of it. So, I mean, if you're aware that you're feeling righteous, then that's self-awareness. Then you could ask yourself, what is my need behind me feeling so righteous? You know, and what am I trying to protect? You know, what needs do I have? You know, was I brought up in a family where there was a lot of right and wrong? If I'm not right, then I'm wrong. Is there a lot of right and wrong in my life? You could just be curious about that. So secondary gains, I think if we just keep focusing and being curious about the self-awareness, you could just be aware. And are there any secondary gains? Are there any ulterior motives here? Are there any expectations here? Am I making any assumptions here? You could ask all those questions. And you're not going to discover everything all at once. It's like a 10,000 piece puzzle. Okay. If you've ever worked on a 1,000-piece puzzle, that's a lot of pieces. And you're going to get little pieces and you're going to put the pieces together little by little. And oh yeah, I can see what that is. That's the balloon. Okay. And you'll put little pieces together. I shouldn't say 10,000. I'll say 1,000 because that might be too overwhelming. But there's a lot of little pieces. And then you get the little pieces and you put them together. And then as you put them together, you'll start seeing things more clearly and you'll start seeing the bigger picture. Does that make sense? It comes in phases. Krishna doesn't throw it all on us at once. It would be too overwhelming. Yeah, he doesn't expect us to put the whole 1,000-piece puzzle together in 5 minutes, or, you know, it takes time. And we might work on it for a while and then we might let it rest for a couple of weeks because it's too overwhelming. And then we work on it and then we take a rest. Does that make sense to whomever gave that question? I hope so.
Yes, I guess. Yes, we have a message saying it makes sense. Thank you so much.
Okay. And then the next question.
The next question on the chat is it's a question by Shravya. She asks, oftentimes it's easy to get caught up in what others think about us and forget about our own happiness. So what are some strategies or things that we can do to prioritize self-love and self-respect in our life?
The same answers I'm going to have to give is be curious, just like really like why and when did I get so invested in other people's opinions of me? When did I start, you know, putting my value in what other people think of me? You know, when did I start giving more credibility to what others think than what I think. You know, I'm sure it has something to do with your upbringing and your family and your parents, because we do that. And then just, being curious, okay, well, what is it that I want? And how can I value what I want? How can I honor and respect what I value? And just be curious and ask those questions and pray and pray and pray and ask those questions and pray and pray. Literally, I've been working on myself for 23 years. And the 27 years before that, it wasn't that I wasn't working on myself. I was still praying to Krishna and still asking questions. I was just in my bubble of self-righteous. I knew what to do. I was very in my bubble of security, but it was not real security. And Krishna shattered that bubble. And it felt like he was, hurting me, but actually he wanted to give me more, but he couldn't give me any more. It wasn't penetrating into my bubble. So he had to shatter my bubble, and then he could give me more. So it comes in phases. It comes in. So, we are a work in progress. Just take your life and be curious, be consciously self-aware, and you will learn a lot. That's all I have to say. I noticed there was one more question, and just ask that person. Is that okay? Two more.
Actually, three more. Shravya, I hope that has answered your question. If you can put it on the chat. Yes, she says yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, so then just a few more questions, and then we'll have to go, because this could go on forever for sure.
But I mean, personally, I'm benefiting tremendously from these talks, and I'm so grateful to you. It's simply amazing. I really don't want this to end.
All right, well, we'll answer the three questions, and then let's see what happens.
Yes. So, yeah. So we have a question from Ishika. She asks, in life, when we face problems, sometimes Krishna doesn't reply. Krishna doesn't make the problem right, because Krishna has other better plans for us. But we, out of ignorance, don't understand that. And we become sad and full of anxiety as to how to deal with this. Okay, we become sad and full of anxiety. So how do we deal with this and how to face problems?
Okay. Well, we can call them problems, or we could call them things, opportunities of growth, for growth. Like I'm hitting up against something. Maybe I haven't grown beyond that thing. So we could be curious. What does Krishna want to teach me here? That's one question we could ask ourselves. Now, when we think that Krishna is not responding to our request, that's simply our conception. Krishna fulfills all our desires since time immemorial. He does have his own timeline, and he does understand us better than we understand ourselves. So he knows what it is that we're really asking for, and he will give us the answer in a way that we're really answered, not a quick fix answer. Krishna's not a quick fixer. He's not a quick fixer. Now, sometimes, due to our perspective, we have this tiny tunnel vision. I call it the straw of expectations. It's just tunnel vision. And so we expect Krishna to answer us inside this little tunnel. Like, this is the way Krishna can answer my question. But then Krishna answers our question up here or over here or down here or over here. And we can't see his answer because we're expecting it to come in a certain way. And we're like, Krishna, why aren't you answering my question? And Krishna's like, I am answering it. Open up your perspective, open up your eyes wider because you're missing it. I'm answering it. You're just not recognizing it. You're not seeing it. So we can't keep our closed perspective and our conditioned perspective and expect to understand everything that Krishna's sending or not sending. So if we think that Krishna isn't answering our question, we might say, Krishna, help me to see your answer. Help me to understand and be curious. And sometimes he doesn't give us the answer for a long time. Something happened to me like, 35 years. It took 35 years for me to understand exactly the relevance of something that he put me through earlier in my life. So later on in life, I said, okay, so now that I realize that everything you send to me is a blessing, can you tell me, Krishna, what was the blessing of that thing that happened 35 years ago? And then instantly he gave me the answer because then I was ready for the answer because the answer wouldn't have made sense unless I had lived out the rest of my life because it was a preparation for something for me later on in life, like decades later, that I had no idea that it would be a preparation for that. And he couldn't really give me that answer because I wouldn't have understood I wouldn't have understood it. So sometimes the answers we understand in the context of our life and as when we can look back in retrospect, oh, now I understand why you did that. Yes, that makes perfect sense. So if we can't see, it just means we can't see. It doesn't mean he's not answering us. It just means we can't see that answer right now for some reason. I hope that was sufficient.
Yes, Ishika, I hope you're answered. Yes. Okay. She says yes. Thank you so much, Hari Bol.
Haribol. Haribol. Next question.
Yes. So so we have a question from Meera who says, I understand my problem sometimes and I got solutions too. But in applying that, it makes me slow, or I take time in my old mind pattern. I understand it takes time, but are there any tips?
Well, it does sometimes take time to apply, and the application isn't just a one coat job. It's not a one coat paint job. The application may include many steps and a lot of practice. Remember, we've been practicing our old habits for a long time. So to start practicing new habits takes some time and momentum to be gathered to practice that. Be gentle, be compassionate, notice when you're applying and take note to what you see when you do apply and you are committed to your application process, and then make note of what happens or doesn't happen when you don't apply it. And just that getting the impact of your application or non-application can be an inspiration for you to apply more. Oh, when I apply it, wow, this and this and this happened. And when I don't apply it, oh yeah, the same old stuff happens over and over again. So you want to be aware and conscious and acknowledge the impacts of your non-application or your application. Does that make sense? Is that helpful?
Meera. Yes. Yes. Yeah. She said, yes, thank you. And I want to be here, the class. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Meera. Thank you. Matiji, so we have here Karuna Radhika Matiji. So I would like to introduce her to you. She's very,
Go ahead.
she has raised her hand. Matiji, we'd like to turn on your video.
Yes.
So Matiji is very amazing. She leads a lot of women sangha here in out here in Hyderabad, and she inspires many ladies. She's a doctor by profession, and she does amazing services. So Matiji has a question.
Mati, thank you so much for this. I mean, I cannot emphasize how much important this session of yours was, because being in the medical field, I do realize that women don't come forward. My question to you, Mataji, do you see that mental health problems are more in the devotees as compared to the general population? Because in some ways, the spirituality that we practice should be helping us have less of these issues, but at the same time, in some ways, I think it is also making us vulnerable. So just like your opinion about
So I didn't get what you meant, that it's making us vulnerable. Explain that a bit. Say that again.
Because imagine we are handling two different worlds. We are trying to straddle between them, and we may have situations where the entire family is not spiritual, or the outside world may not understand the way we see things. So there's a lot of dynamics, I think, between uh, being a devotee also.
Okay.
I mean, it can be stressful too, because we are trying to do everything that we do in the material world, and then do all the sadhana, all the reading. So it kind of puts a little stress there, especially when the other family is not devotional or not in the path.
Okay. So I think you had two parts to your question. So I'll answer the first question. Do I think that compared to outsiders, devotees have more or less something issues or something like that? Mental health, yeah. I would like to say that I think, as souls and human machines, we all have mental health issues. I would say that sometimes, due to a misinterpretation of the philosophy, devotees have a tendency to suppress, maybe sometimes more than outsiders. Not that outsiders don't suppress. I would say outsiders more. They probably medicate themselves by taking intoxications, and so that's how they deal with their emotions. And devotees don't take intoxication, but they suppress. So I don't think that that's any healthier. So I think that it's a field within the devotee world that really needs to be opened up, because there are severe repercussions for suppression. That's my answer to your first question. The second question, I would like to say that I don't like myself personally to see a difference between my material life and my spiritual life. I mean, we are a soul in a human machine. We are a spiritual entity. Everything that's happening in my life can be a part of my spiritual development, if I allow it to be. But if I say, this is my material life, and reject it and push it away, I may be pushing away a lot of opportunities to learn. So you say, family members aren't necessarily practicing devotees. They don't necessarily appreciate everything we do. Granted, that may be true. That doesn't make them a demon. And it could give us plenty of opportunity to practice, because if they see, oh, you're a devotee, but you're still blah, 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 then we may see, okay, there's something here for me to work on. And if we're working on ourselves and we're a work in progress, our family and our relatives will be able to notice, oh, you're not doing that so much. That's really interesting. How do you do that? and then we can share with them about, what we do and what works for us. So I don't like to see a difference like, oh, my spiritual life is chanting and reading and going to the temple and worshiping my deity. Everything else is my material life. I really don't like to look at it like that. Doing my dishes is part of my spiritual life. I'm keeping my environment clean. I'm doing this as service to my family, which is a duty, and also to Krishna, because cleanliness is next to godliness. It's a part of my spiritual practice. So I see everything in my life as part of my spiritual practice, and then it becomes a contribution to my spiritual life rather than dividing me and splitting me in two, which is very disconcerting. Does that make sense?
Yes, Mataji. I was meaning it a little differently. Just like
Go
you
ahead.
said, devotees suppress, and devotees don't like to believe that, they have a health issue. So mental health issues.
Mental health.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. So that's what I mean. So
Okay.
sort of want to
Yes,
give this
yes,
message.
yes.
Everybody is vulnerable. Everybody is vulnerable is what I want to,
Yes,
you know.
yes. Devotees have just as many mental health issues as anybody else. And if we use the Maha Mantra to suppress our health issues, that is not Krishna consciousness. That is called misusing the scriptural injunctions to conceal and hide the things that we need to work on, which is simply slowing down our progress. So, addressing, we talk about, the Bhagavad Gita talks about controlling the mind. I like to use the words managing the mind. If you don't understand your mind, how are you going to manage it? If you don't understand your cell phone, how are you going to manage it? So yes, we do need to understand our mental, physical, spiritual, social, all those things. We need to understand all of that so we can see how we function. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying your question.
Hare Krishna. So one last question. I think Champat Lata Mataji.
Yes.
So Champat Lata Mataji also is a very wonderful soul. Mataji has done the amazing work of translating the Bhagavad Gita into Braille for the blind.
Into Braille. Wow. Oh my gosh. Are
Hare
you
Krishna,
blind?
Mataji. No, I'm not, but I'm spiritually blind, Mataji.
I'm blind in all ways, but wow, into Braille? That must have
Yes,
been like a really long project.
yes, Mataji. It's been a very long project, but by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and my Guru Maharaj and wonderful souls like you, that got done, Mataji.
Yay, congratulations. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Phew.
Thank you, Mataji. I do not have a question, but I just wanted to thank you because it's our great fortune to hear from you. Planet Earth is actually blessed with wonderful souls like you, Mataji, who have been blessed by Srila Prabhupada and also initiated by Prabhupada. And today's talk about self-awareness, self-love, self-care, self-respect, all these have actually drawn some conclusions on how to deal with our psychophysical nature while we are seriously trying to practice spiritual life or work on soul paradigm. And as you said, these are two different but interconnected dimensions, and we have to strike a balance between the two, Mataji, because the body mind paradigm and soul paradigm, these are two different things. But just like water and oil cannot be mixed together, they cannot be a homogeneous mixture. Similarly, our gross and subtle bodies are very different from our soul, but we have to use the body and mind as instrument to liberate ourselves and ultimately achieve Krishna Prem. So wonderfully executed, Madhaji. Thank you so much. And I seek your blessings because only by the blessings of pure devotees like you, our soul and our emotional, mental, and physical quotients can get nourished. And kindly bless us, Madhaji. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, I want to make a disclaimer. Thank you for that. I wouldn't call myself a pure devotee. And if you think that I have something that you don't, that's a misconception also. You have everything there. Just because I was initiated by Prabhupada doesn't make me Prabhupada. It doesn't make me any better, any different than you. I'm maybe a little older. Maybe I've had more experiences. Granted. However, Krishna's in your heart and you are a soul and you have every capacity to grow and learn and be blessed by your guru and Krishna in and of yourself. If you don't think that you can really have what the saints have, if you don't think that you can have that, you know, you're missing a point. This is, Krishna is giving everybody access. We do need to apply it. We do need to practice it. We do need to experience making mistakes sometimes and then getting up and brushing ourselves off and trying it again. We need to stay in the race, which is a long distance marathon. That we need to do. Krishna will purify us when we stay in the process and are really curious, okay, you know, what is the next step for me? So it's available to everyone. Krishna does not inhibit anybody, and time, place, circumstances, nothing can inhibit your spiritual growth, except we can inhibit our spiritual growth. Nothing external can inhibit our spiritual growth, and our desire inside of us can keep us in the process. So, yeah. So
those are highly
you.
encouraging words, Mataji. Highly encouraging words. Thank you so much.
You are blessed by Krishna, and I bless you that you see the blessings Krishna is giving you every day, because Krishna is blessing each and every one of you. That's his magnanimousness. And he's blessing us, but we just don't see them in our little tiny tunnel vision. We miss the blessings and then we complain. So open your eyes, look for the blessings, even the tiny ones, and just say, oh, thank you, Krishna. Okay, yes, that gratitude will expand your perspective. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Hi, Krishna. I see there's another question, and I noticed there was something in the chat about imitating the acharyas.
Acharya.
But I don't. Yeah.
Should I read the question on the chat, Mataji, or
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Do the chat, and then we'll do Tulsi.
So, yeah, the question by Sai Sri is, what is the difference between imitation of acharyas and taking inspiration from them? There's a thin line of difference between the two, and I'm not exactly getting that.
Okay. Yeah. I think there's actually a big line of distinction between that. We are all different. Every single one of us is uniquely different. We can't actually imitate anyone, because then we wouldn't be being true to ourself and our soul self, because we may not all have the same services or same perspectives. Even in the spiritual world, there are many perspectives. So from the acharyas, we can see that they have stayed in the process. They have said prayers. We've seen that they've written prayers. Do we ever say prayers? Do we ever write prayers? Sometimes we just read the prayers of the acharyas. Nothing wrong with that. However, do we write our own prayers from our own heart? Do we talk to Krishna? Do we pray, oh, my dear Lord, when will that day be mine? Do we actually ever write those prayers ourselves? When will that day be mine when I'm not attached to this thing? How will I ever not be attached to this thing? Do we say those prayers? So I would say the inspiration we can gather from them is that they stuck in the process. They connected with Krishna. They prayed to Krishna. and they accepted what Krishna gave and accepted what Krishna didn't give. So I think that's where we can get the inspiration and just work from that and expand it out from there. That was another quick answer to a huge question.
Actually, I think, yes, she says, yes,
Perfect.
thank you. Thank you. So now there's a question by our Tulsi Mataji. So Mataji needs no introduction. Mataji, we have met Mataji when you have come to Hyderabad.
Yes, I'm missing you so much, my dear. How are you?
I'm much better, Mataji, remembering you. Thank you so
giving you a
much.
big hug.
Actually, I really didn't have a question, but I thought I'll take this opportunity to thank you for the thing you told me the other day when we met, that about the existential grief, that it's like we have actually been very sad all along, and but the current grief is just an impetus to realize that actually that's been helping so much. And in the process of addressing that grief, whatever, like I've been doing something like chanting or reading Bhagavatam earlier also, but realizing that this is like this grief has been there all along, and these practices are actually helping me cope up with that original grief. So
yes.
that's making, like, I feel now chanting and like faith in Bhagavatam, they're more genuine. Like I feel more honest these days, and I feel more like it's like I know that I'm doing the right thing, something like that. So it's not that I didn't do these things earlier, but when I do them now, I feel I'm really honest now.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm expressing my feelings right, but thank you so much. We're all, like, all of us here who have met you, and it's been a savior, Mataji. Thank you so much. We are very, very grateful.
Thank you. I'm so happy to see you, because I've been thinking about all of you, because I got really kind of connected and attached to all of you there. And I was like, oh, I wonder, I hope that I mean, I just been traveling the last month. I just got back here like about 5 days ago. So back to the United States.
We are also not in the place where we met you. We are a little off from the city now, and there's not much connectivity and all here. So, like, I didn't have much facility to write to you or talk to you.
No,
but
it's
then
okay.
by Ujjvala Radhe Mtj's mercy, like this opportunity to see you, and not just to see you and hear from you is such a boon today. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to see you again. And again, because what you were talking about, the grief, it's kind of like, usually we want to push away these things because we think they're negative feelings, you know. But actually, when you dive into it, it's so deep and it's so rich, and it really connects us in a much deeper way to Krishna. It's like, oh yes, Krishna, I am sad. I do miss you, and I do want to love you, and I don't even know how to do that. And please help me. And it really stirs up a momentum and a real feeling, like an authentic feeling of wanting to connect, rather than I need to connect, I need to remember Krishna, you know. So yeah, the things sometimes that we fear the most are the things that can help to connect us to Krishna and show us deeper ways of being authentic. So I'm so happy to see you.
In so many years, it was never like that. Now I'm waiting to chant, or like I'm waiting to read. It was never like that. Like most of it was done because that is a vidhi given by spiritual master, or because that is the way you're supposed to be. It's not that you really want to do it. But now seeing that by doing that, you feel so good. You're just waiting to do it. That is so. That is enduring the process more.
Yes, endearing and beautiful. And then your soul feels completely different about that. Then it's not like, oh, it's my duty. It's like, it's your soul is like, yes, you know. And so Beautiful. So wonderful. Really, really, really nice to see you. I'm sending you a hug. And I don't know if there were more ladies on this call that I had met with before. I can't remember everybody, but I'm sending hugs to all of you. And
Thank you
I'm
so
so
much, Mataji.
grateful
I'll
that,
convey them. I'll convey it to all of them. Some of them are
yes,
there today,
yes.
but I'll convey to who were not able
And
to join on.
I'm so grateful for the time that I was able to spend with you, because it was also a part of my growing and learning process also. Because I had never, been in such a situation. And so I had to pray a lot, and I was like, oh my gosh, so I was really reaching out. And Krishna and Radha helped all of us simultaneously, helping me, helping you, and then we helped one another. And that's the magnanimous nature of Radha and Krishna. They always want to help us, always. We just need to ask for their help. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you put your camera on. I got to see you. I'm so happy to see you. I feel connected again, because I was like, I got really busy after I came, but then I was like, oh, I wonder how everybody's doing. I felt real connected to all of you, so that was very sweet.
And Ujjvala Radhe Mtj also told me that you prayed for all of us at Barsana Dham. Thank you so much for that, Mataji.
I did.
Like how valuable prayers are, and how much difference the presence of after you left. Indrajumna Swami Maharaj visited us, and he was there with us for a couple of days. Like, it's not that Maharajas didn't visit us before, but then because of all this, what should I call, pain or guilt or whatever it is.
Yes.
What difference the presence of a sadhu, even if it's brief, can make. Like, we all could so visibly see and know, like, it was really, we really like, genuinely felt grateful, and wow, what is there in the scripture is so true. It's like, no, it dawned suddenly on the head. So it's really so.
You had real connecting experiences, and that validated what you read in the scripture, but it took you to a whole nother place. Beautiful. Yes. Wonderful. I'm so happy for all of you. I'm so happy to spend time with all of you. It was really wonderful. Thank you, Ujjvala Radhe, for making this possible. Tulsi Manji, please do send my love to everybody.
Yes.
All right. Are we at the end?
Yes. I mean, we don't want this to end, but
I do. A lot of people were asking questions. You can tell them. Thank you. You can tell them that, these books are available online. Finding the Gap and Entering the Gap. And they can, through the Long Study or the Compassion book. They're all online with Amazon, or even I have a friend who could send copies if you wanted to send some to, I'm just saying, because there was a lot of questions, and there's a lot of, like, I can only give you the first step. I can't tell you every step, but these books kind of go through step by step. So anyway, yeah. So I wanted to offer I'm sorry.
I will post the link for the books in our groups. So
yes. And I wanted to just offer my obeisances to everyone, because it's not easy to be a soul in a human machine, and to be a soul in a human machine on the spiritual path can be even more challenging. So I just offer my respects and my gratitude for you to be on this path. It's a noble path. And my obeisances. Vancha kalpatubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Yes. Very wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you very much. I'm sure everybody who has attended this has a lot, in the booty. And certainly, the need to be self-aware, the need to be curious, and know that we are work in progress, and be patient and trust Krishna and his plans. There's no quick fix, and we have to one step at a time. And I really love that sometimes Krishna breaks our bubble, because something more
Yep.
precious.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you,
Thank
Mataji. It's been
you.
enormous learning. Truly,
Thank
truly
you.
grateful to you from the core of my heart, and on behalf of all of us, really look forward for more.
And we
Thank
can,
you so
we can
much.
connect. We can connect again at another time. You know where I am. Haribol.
Thank you very much, man. Hare Krishna. Dhanyavad.
Hare Krishna. Dandavad. Dandavad.
So I thank everybody who has joined the session today. Thanks a lot. I will post the recording of the session in all the groups. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Haribol. Wonderful session.
Thank you so much, Ujjvala Radhe Mtj. Thank you so much.
Haribol Mataji, thank you so much for coming, and you've made this session. I mean, I was actually enjoying more the questions you are asking, and your question and answers are what I enjoyed more than my own questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mataji. Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Haribol, Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dhanyavad. I will post the recording. Hare Krishna. I will end the meeting.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So stop the recording.